next song is The Industry of the Ant. The ant eats, the elephant eats. But if you have the patience to dissect an ant, you will find its liver. Thank you. Akomo, brekomo, akomo, brekomo, sasa breko na puna mope. Akomo, brekomo, sasa breko na puna mope. Akomo ba madiache, obrekwe, anayeno. Akoba madiache. Akomo, brekomo, akokomo, brekomo, sasa breko na puna mope. Akomo, brekomo, sasa breko na puna mope. Akoba madiache, obrekwe, enayeno. Akoba madiache. Okwadjufo kwatete anchen. Susuana kwan ne hunu nyansa. Tati ato santre fiada ho se duane disie pebre. Sutobre ba no ada. Efse onyansa fu obiara bo no sie dabi. Akomo, brekomo, sasa breko na buna mope. Akomo, brekomo, sasa breko na buna mope. Akomo ba madiache, obrekwe, enayeno. Akomo ba madiache. Nana Jay di agromu, o Messi Madame Pai. Aye, Adam po himno. Kofi usi o free krapa, Messi Madame Pa. Aye, Adam po himno. Enko Messi, eja usi wa. Ewarabu, jame kwa mama koda, dampo himno, yaneme dampo himno. Nana Jay odi agromu, o Messi Madame Pai. Aye, dampo himno.
Certainly, these are the days of Mr. Kofi Annan, those days when I guess when he was growing up a young man. Jack Onimo and his team certainly will get him a lot of those songs, get him excited as a Ghanaian. I'm sure he will never have missed those palm wine high life. Good morning. And thanks so much for staying there. New day, and this is where we're starting. Day 2 of 3-day mourning of a late former UN Secretary General. Of course, a lot is expected to be done today when the traditional authorities take their turns to file past the body. I'm sure you saw what happened yesterday. And so this morning, 10 a.m., the process will begin at the Accra International Conference. Our job this morning is to take you through what's happening around the world, and the team has just taken your seat. Good morning once again. We're starting. Am I enjoying it?
Good morning. But yesterday there was this whole conversation about the fact that the body that was laid in state was not viewed. And I mean, I had a problem with it because I think it's up to us to decide how we want our funerals to go. And the fact that the family even agreed to let him come into Ghana was a big deal. And so I think there really should not be any fuss about it. How they decide to lay the body in quotes in state is up to them.
People wanted to see.
People wanted to see because it's the usual Ghanaian custom.
You see,
but I mean, they change things for you. So that's where now we should be thinking that, I mean, the fact that you think it's supposed to be this way doesn't mean that's how it will go. And if you go there, that's not how it is.
I also believe that, look, the body may not necessarily be in the...
Exactly. I really believe so.
They have been cremated and done and dusted with, and it's just a box that is draped in natural colors.
Does it really matter?
Well, it doesn't. It shouldn't. But maybe the communication again, the information that was giving out was that the body would be laid in state. So I guess
tell people
that's
the body
where,
will be laid in state,
yes.
And people have an opportunity to
file
past it.
Okay.
When they're filing past the box to look at the box,
right?
What
I guess it should have been clear.
Yeah,
that's where the problem all stems from.
I think that's where the confusion comes from. I've heard people say all manner of things on social media, and it's exciting that some say, well, some say he's Freemason, some say he's this, and I'm like, you don't even know the man.
He's gone.
You don't know him from anywhere. So how do you then suddenly decide? Because, for example, if a family agreed, or maybe he had it in a will, you decide then that because they are not doing what you expected them to do, then he becomes something.
But on the flip side, another thing I heard that I thought wasn't really worth the explanation, because someone said in his will he didn't want the pomp and pageantry that we usually celebrate Ghanaian funerals with, and so they wanted a modest, funeral.
So
but I'm like, yes, this doesn't really cut out for modesty. So I don't think that excuse of modesty would, wash for not having a body laid in state as we all know it to be. Because you are filing past for 3 days. He's going to be laid in state. There's nothing modest about that. There certainly isn't.
I wanted to really
even if they were drinking just water.
Yeah, that's cost.
I wanted to really see
I don't think it's
McCain's body before his final departure, but I didn't get the opportunity to see it. So when this debate was ongoing, I felt, well, maybe it's one of those things. McCain was all wrapped up in that U.S. flag and a casket, and so just take it like
for example, McCain's body was like that. But that of Aretha Franklin in that same country. Right. So different strokes for different folks. Maybe that's what.
But when I passed on, I guess that let people see me.
The richest and the wizards will be there. But guys, should a body have been exposed? You'll be seeing these pictures on social media.
No. I think that Vice President Misata was exposed. Nobody took a photo.
Unless with the bleach prevented.
But you won't take a photo. If you take a photo and my people Abema come grab you, you will be.
Because I hear even media personnel were at some point prevented from taking it. So
you will be dealt with.
You know what?
There was no way.
Let me tell you one thing. My grandmom was 89. Now, before she died, do you know what she said?
No.
She said that when she died, she wants a big funeral. That's what she said.
That's all.
And she meant not big as in how much we spend, but she said
the size of people,
as many people as
you can.
And it was indeed a huge one.
To come and mourn her.
His son, Ismail Yamson, did a great one. Right. So I'm wondering, why do people try to say that when I die, don't put up that kind of funeral?
Yeah.
Why? You are gone. Allow us to do
what we're
merry-make it and all that.
I doubt if the dead, their wishes, do they matter?
Well, it does. I mean,
at a point in time, it doesn't matter.
No, it does.
Because I know Mr. Arthur also wanted a modest one.
The person is gone.
And because he had the status.
How do you take seriously what he had wished for?
You should take it serious. That is what he
wanted. Do it. Give him the last respect.
But yes, that's what you wanted, but you're gone. We are not taking the decision.
Of course. So your decision will end up not tallying with what they wanted. But at least try. In everything you do, try to remember what they wanted.
I think the wishes of the dead don't matter.
Because then you two will cover you. You've asked us, we will cover you. I've told you.
He says he wants to show. We will cremate him, put his ashes in a bottle, and put
it out
a sticker of your picture on it.
Give it for me for.
No, I'm already under the hot African sun. You want to cremate me?
Charlie, but yesterday the double track started.
Yeah, sure.
And I was thinking, look, if we can have a double track to expand access to free SHS and SHS. Why can't we have a double track system in the employment sector to lessen the unemployment load, so that I work for 3 months or we work for 3 months, we go on a long leave, we still get our pay, then we get new set of people to come and do 3 months, then they take a leave.
Social media.
That's a suggestion. People will certainly have to cover George.
I don't know what we should do to you people.
I've got other news this morning, this day.
It will be exciting though.
My name is George Quinn. It's time for news here on New Day. And coming up this morning, President Akufo-Addo has visited the family of the late former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan to commiserate with them. Some Ghanaians who filed past the remains of the former Secretary General of the UN, Kofi Annan, have expressed disappointment over the covered casket. And home economics students on gold track at the Takrady Senior High School in the Western Region have reported to school. Thanks for staying alive on DSTV channel 279. My name is George Quinn. And on to our very first story, President Akufo-Addo has visited the family of the late former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan to commiserate with them. And wife Nina and children Kojo and Ama arrived in Ghana on Monday with the remains of the astute diplomat for the 4-day state funeral. President Akufo-Addo, in the company of the funeral planning committee on Tuesday, was at the airport residence of the family to commiserate with them. And still on this development, hundreds of mourners trooped to the International Conference Center to pay their last respect to the former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan. Many were of the view there's a lot to learn from the former diplomat, who they observed could promote national unity and cohesion. Godfrey Tenam was at the conference center and has filed this report.
The remains of the former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan was laid in state at the Accra International Conference Center for public viewing. First day of the filing past witnessed the general public trooping to the conference center to pay their last respect to the global icon. Right at the Accra International Conference Center, where the body of the late former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan has been laid in state, and the public is filing past the body right now, and this is going to be done for 3 days, and on Thursday the body will be interred, and the final funeral rites organized, and then they shown the last respect to the late Kofi Annan. The general public who filed past noted there's a lot to learn from the lustrous son of the land.
I have learned that he has achieved a lot of great things, and then I'm hoping to also achieve great things as he has done also. Yes.
I particularly like the fact that he's such a calm gentleman. Sometimes I wish he had been the president of this country. We should learn it. Our politicians are sometimes a little too wild, and I wish, you know, they will learn from him and be calm, not be insulting and all that.
We all have to also emulate his humble behavior and also aspire to a higher level as he has done.
I think to learn from him that you can achieve anything in life. Here he is a man from Kumasi, and he went on to truly change the world. He received a Nobel Peace Prize. I think if they desire to be like him, he's a good leader to follow.
Some personalities, including former Director General of the Ghana-India Kofi Annan Center of Excellence, Dorothy Gordon, expressed fond memories of Kofi Annan.
He was a very disciplined human being. He paid attention to his fitness, he paid attention to his diet. He was somebody who was very systematic in life. So in these times when sometimes it's difficult to find good role models, I think he epitomizes what a good role model should be. We should study his life and learn from it.
He has died at a matured age of 80. We thank God for Kofi Annan's life. But what we should learn from his life is peace, love, respect for human beings, and rule of law. And then we should allow people to express their views. Kofi had the patience to listen to people, both the youth, both male and female. And I think that these are things that will make the world a peaceful place for all of us to live and coexist with each other in a harmonious manner.
So I feel he's one of the finest men and a kind of idol for me as well. I've seen him last 10-15 years while he was the UN General, and I watch him very closely, and I feel he has one of the finest diplomatic temperament I've ever seen in the last so many years. So you can say he's one of my great idols.
The fact that he's humble and hardworking and calm, I think it's a lesson to all of us that we must do our best for our nation and then also try to shine not only in our country but shine for the whole globe to see what the nation has for the world. And in doing so, we have to be calm and humble.
And Deputy Information Minister Pius Enam Hajide says the planned activities for the final funeral rites of the former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan are in line with his wish for a modest passage. Pius Hajide was reacting to some concerns raised by the public yesterday.
So there are several high-profile funerals that I have attended that have seen the caskets covered, even in this country. And so it's not a major problem. The important thing is that there's a beautiful occasion happening. You see the family seated in state. And so the man, Kofi Annan himself, is a modest person, and he doesn't want a lot of flamboyancy around the funeral with a lot of frills. Yes, this is a state funeral, we admit, but even as we give him a befitting state funeral, we think that it is still important that we respect his wishes of keeping it a little modest, a little soft, and so on and so forth. So far, it's been very, very good. We all know Mr. Kofi Annan. We know the kind of person he is. And I think that the way it has been arranged is just perfect.
On Wednesday, September 12, former ministers of state, members of the diplomatic corps, members of parliament, ministers of state, members of the council of state, members of the Mfansipim Old Boys Association, chiefs and queen mothers will pay their last respects. A burial service will be held on Thursday, September 13 at the Accra International Conference Center, followed by a private burial at the new military cemetery with full military honors and a 17-gun salute.
If you just tuned in, you're watching news here on New Day Live on DSTV channel 279. And yesterday, the general public had the opportunity to far past the remains of the former Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, as they paid their last respect. And Minister of Information designate Kojopo Nkrumah outlines funeral activities for today and Thursday.
The order for Wednesday. Members of the diplomatic corps are expected to pay their final respects at 8 a.m. Members of Parliament at 8:30 a.m. Ministers of State at 8:50 a.m. Members of the Council of State 9:30 a.m. Mfanspim Old Boys Association 10 a.m. Chiefs and Queen Mothers 10:30 a.m. His father's family 11 a.m., the Akwamuhene and his delegation 11:40 a.m., and Otumfuo Tutu's delegation, which would also arrive to perform their final funeral rites. Recall, he was given a traditional ranking entitled Busumuru. They would also be here at noon to perform their final funeral rites. And then on Thursday, the funeral service starts at 8:30 a.m.
He also advised on traffic and parking provisions made for the public.
The main routes from the Ridge Roundabout to the stadium traffic lights will be closed on the day, that is Thursday, and it's only those who have received invitations that will be allowed to access those routes on Thursday. The forecourt of the State House and Parliament House are available for parking for those who are invited. We also ask that we observe and comply with all the security instructions that will be given by the security officers on the day.
And today we bring you extensive coverage of the 3-day funeral rites of the late diplomat Kofi Annan. So you want to stick with TV3 for updates on this development. And economist with Data Bank Courage Mate says the cedi will continue its losing streak against the dollar until external factors influencing its performance stabilizes, and the local currency has been depreciating against the dollar, with some analysts predicting it will hit the 5 cedi mark soon.
At the close of business on Monday, September 10th, some banks were selling a dollar for 4 cedis 97 pesos, and rates as quoted by some Forex Bureau were as much as 5 cedis to a dollar. The fall in the cedi is primarily due to external factors, as attractive interest rates in the U.S. continue to repel investors from emerging markets, and this has impacted heavily on the supply of dollars. Later this month, the U.S. Federal Reserve is expected to increase its interest rates again. Economist with Data Bank, Courage Mate, said coupled with external factors, the uptick of importers' demand for dollars for the festivities have the potential to push the cedi to the psychological 5 cedis barrier.
But whilst I think that we could test the 5 cedis per dollar mark, the fundamentals will determine whether it will hold that level or recoup some of the losses that it would have made.
Between January and June last year, the local currency has depreciated by 7.75%. However, over the same period this year, the cedi depreciated by 1.59%. Year-to-date loss on the interbank market is 7.13% against the US dollar.
The past couple of years, what we've been doing is to embark on short-term exchange rate policies that tighten fiscal policy, tighten monetary policy, embark on foreign currency bonds or debts that brings in foreign currency to shore up the local currency. But what you find out is that over that period, the local currency had been living on what you like borrowed time, so that if the sentiments change, destabilize the cedi again.
The perennial issue has largely been blamed on Ghana's economic model, which is highly dependent on imports, a situation which Courage Mate says will require political commitment to reverse.
District One Factory, together with Planting for Food and Jobs, is a brilliant program that can alter the structure of this economy towards productive and value-added activity. And I would have loved that we prioritize and aggressively pursue such policies, because that is the kind of policy that would add value to our raw materials, move us from the lower end of the value chain to the upper end of the value chain, and increase how much we earn per commodity we export to the market. Then we can improve on our build-up of reserves.
Away from the cedi, for home economics students on Go Track at the Takrady Senior High School in the Western Region have reported to school yesterday, contrary to official arrangement by Ghana Education Service. School authorities, without pointing to any reason, say the decision fits into their internal arrangement. Here's a report filed by Loveridge Aprechu Mortuary.
Over here at Takrady Senior High School, authorities have made internal arrangements such that home economics students who were originally placed on Go Track and originally supposed to start school on 8 November have been asked to start school today. They are joining their colleagues, home economics students, on the green track starting today. Asking authorities, they didn't give me any specific reasons. Let's meet some of the home economics students who were to start school 8 November, but they asked to come today.
My name is Marina. I'm doing home economics. I was booked on Go Track, so I thought I would be coming to school on November. But when I came and collect my admission, they told me that I should start with the green tracks.
Have you prepared your mind to start school today?
I was relaxed because I knew I would come to school November. So when they told me, I wasn't prepared, but I said I will come to school today.
I was put on good track, but yesterday when I came here for admission, they told me that I should add myself to the green track.
So when your parents heard it, how was their reaction?
It was like something. They were rushing to buy my things.
Some of the parents were disappointed about not getting a residential facility for their wards. Others also expressed anxiety about the long vacation in the double track system.
My name is Jojo Usu. I'm from Kwabri East Municipal Assembly. My son was posted to Takoradi Secondary School. Initially, he picked Takoradi Technical Institute, and we don't know what happened. He was posted here, and the course also has been changed. And unfortunately for us, we couldn't get boarding. He is to go on day. So we are confused as to how to go about it.
The challenge that I'm seeing, or I want it to be resolved, is after the first track, they come home. What next? What will they be doing? Sitting home for November, December before they go in for the second semester. What would they be doing? I think we have been facing challenges with, even for the 3 years, going the 3 terms for like 3 months. There have been some challenges.
So the young parents no, your boy teachers no so. Though you want to be school, so the young parents no, your teacher of fear, your the mama, your boy more from ano. But you share fees. At least yeah, the money but
Earlier, the headmaster of this school, Mr. Atubros, told me registration started last week Friday, and as you can see behind me, registration is ongoing. Parents who couldn't come here earlier are here registering their wards, making sure the courses they were given are the right courses they will offer here, except the internal arrangements made by the school authorities that home economics students on track gold are to start school today. Meanwhile, originally, they were supposed to start school November 8th. That's the only challenge some of the parents are complaining. Apart from that, everything is in order. Form 2, Form 3s are in classrooms and classes are in session. Reporting for TV3 News, Laveridge, I'm Prachum Ochri, Takrade.
Away from the Western region, let's move to Libya and do some international news where rockets were fired late on Tuesday in the direction of the airport in Libya's capital. Residents said forcing flights to be diverted less than a week after the United Nations brokered a fragile truce between rival armed groups in Tripoli. A spokesman for a faction controlling Matigai Airport, the only one functioning in the capital, said there were no casualties or damage. Libyan channels reported that several people had been wounded by the rockets, one of which landed in the Mediterranean Sea, and rival groups have been fighting in Tripoli for several days, but clashes had been focused on the south of the city. Matigai Airport lies in an eastern suburb, and a Libyan Airlines flight bound for Tripoli from Alexandria, Egypt, was diverted to Misrata, the airport said on its Facebook page. Misrata lies about 190 kilometers east of Tripoli. On that note, we end news here on New Day. You can get more news updates on our website, 3news.com. Alternatively, you can join the news team at 12 on Midday Live. I'm Josh Quinn. New Day continues right after this break. Good morning.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at the front pages now. The Daily Guide starts us off. It says, all set for Kofi Annan as burial at Burma-Camp. And don't use my name, Rawlings warns NDC. NDC to sanction Anyidoho. And double track takes off smoothly. We'll let the parents tell you whether it's smooth or otherwise. The Daily Graphic, special supplement on Kofi Annan inside. And the double track takes off. You see students there with their trunk and mattresses getting ready for school. Bank of Ghana injects more dollars into economy. Photograph of the governor of the central bank along with that story there on the front page of the Daily Graphic. The Ghanaian Times says, world mourns Kofi Annan. And there you have the casket draped in the national flag with his photo there. Flood, Bagri Dam spillage, destroys 7,000 hectares of crops. Special pullout on Kofi Annan, also in the Ghanaian Times. The Daily Heritage, government to demolish 434 structures at Agbebloshi. 1,118 residents affected. Amnesty International criticizes move, and thousands pay last respect to Kofi Annan. Crowell MP schools 1,304 students at second annual pre-free SHS classes, and Labadi Beach Hotel hosts Miss Universe starts today this weekend. Langa sees Ashalaja. Residents beg government to support them. The Daily Statesman. Premix fuel dealers urged to stop diversion of products, and double-track SHS takes off successfully. Ghana mourns Kofi Annan. Ghanaians bid farewell to Busumuru Kofi Annan. Many expressed disappointments over closed caskets. Front page, The Independent. The Finder. High turnout at SHSs as freshers report to school for double-track system. Plus, better version of double-track system at Wesley Girls University Practice SHS. We will learn from them, I'm sure. GBC should be restructured. Ampem Daku was at yesterday's GIJ dialogue series, and it says so. AGI kicks against 5% flat rate tax, and first batch of pilgrims arrive in Accra. Sheikh Isikwe, Mia Kuka, Mia Shoro, Mia, all those foods that he was talking about. I'm sure they enjoyed it. The Herald. Dirty scam cited in $500 million ECG concession. 6,000 ECG workers face uncertain future. Gabi and Bomia throw tantrums at Ghanaians over economic hardships. And MPs angry at special initiatives, Minister. Plus, Atu Forcing tackles Veep in $2 billion bauxite deal, I beg your pardon. Those are the front page stories you have there.
The special thing, the Finder puts it as better version of double track at Wesley Girls. If you read the story, it is suggesting that instead of, say, the green track, I think Wesley Girls and University Practice, instead of the green track going to school, what they have done is that even if you were a member of the gold track and you offer the same course as
science and home economics,
you are asked to come to school during the current reopening. And that's what the Finder describes as better version. I'm not too sure how better it is. You saw a story on TV3 where a gold track student have also, some of them have also gone to school. What does it mean? Because this is a system that is arranged so that, assuming we have a situation where all gold track students who belong to November 8 decide to go to school now, what happens when the gold track team is expected to be in November? So I don't know why
they call it special.
Evans and his team are suggesting it's a better version.
I'm looking at the situation where, look, we all do know that we're supposed to have first 41 days and then they take a break. But if you go to school, orientation takes more like a week. Okay, introducing you to the teachers, the lecture halls, the do's and don'ts, blah, blah, blah. So the first week is usually knocked off, which leaves us with 31 days, not 41 days. And so when do we start counting the 41 days? I think that's what...
Right from when school reopens.
Well, but you see, the 41 days are supposed to be instruction hours. I think that's what Wesley Girls and University Practice are trying to do. Trying to make up for the lost time. Okay? That's for me is what... And it shows in the results we see at the SSC or the WASI.
Let me explain the Wesley Girls
put up there.
What Wesley Girls and University Practice, the two, what you're doing is that they have collected green, let me use green card and gold card. Green card students. So if a green card student is offering, let's say, home economics. Now there's another gold card student who's reading biology. Instead of that gold card student, biology student, waiting to go to school in November, because they have a system where teachers who teach home economics can also teach biology. They have asked those with a green gold card to come to school now and join their colleagues with green card, because the teachers who are going to teach those courses can also teach those students with a gold card.
But if they have the space, if they have the space to do it, well, it's okay for them to do it. You have the space. Why
yes,
not?
I agree, and that's where right from scratch, I think the ministry had been trying to communicate to some of us. I mean, because it wasn't clear cut, and they haven't been able to tell us exactly what is going to go, the do's and don'ts, and the nitty gritties. That's why these things will come up. But of course, every school will probably have to look at what will also suit them, what makes them comfortable, what will make teachers able to give off their best. Because I certainly understand where Wesley Girls and University Practice are coming from. If we have teachers who are in school and maybe they already teach 2 subjects, or even if they were teaching 1, but the classes sort of have similar courses, where that teacher doesn't necessarily have to just stick to 1 class and then come back in another term to or another semester to teach the same courses. Why not put them together now? Let's do it this way, because we see when we do it this way, it will cater for everybody. There probably will be more peace, and of course, maybe the space is also available.
And
why not?
I do
that
know
should
that
be
in most of those schools, I mean, for the schools, the A-list schools, what they do is sometimes they have an extra time that they teach. So school is supposed to reopen on the 7th of September, but you may go earlier.
Just to cover up.
Yes, just to cover up for maybe a week or 2. And then when school vacates and everybody is going, you stay in school 1 extra week, and then you grab something. So you find that they are always in the lead some way. They are always out there leading the charge.
I just think
I think that we should look at their module as well, and see. I won't fault Finder for describing it as a better version, because as I explained, 41 days were supposed to have started yesterday. The truth is that 41 days won't start yesterday. No teacher taught yesterday, which means that 1 day is already gone.
But Johnny,
no
that's
tomorrow,
not too different from what our old system was, because even if we used to go to school for 30 days, we knew that at every point for the first term, 1 week would be dedicated to orientation, and so it doesn't really change.
But then you see, in this particular instance, somebody must go to school, vacate for somebody to come to school.
Yes.
In our system, we didn't vacate for anybody to come to
yes,
school.
But the next set will also have the orientation, and so they'll all have the same number of hours, contact hours.
So then my question is, when do we start counting the 41 days?
Right from the day.
And is the 41 days supposed to be days of instruction?
No, that's what I'm trying to say, that if you do that comparison, then it doesn't hold, because in the old system where we weren't breaking, even if it was 41 days we used to spend, we still used to have the first week being orientation, and the next batch would also have that same orientation. So we always used to count the number of days we spent in school right from the first day, irrespective of whether orientation was there or not.
If you take a look at some of the newspapers, I think that what those in charge will need to do is to quickly go out there and try and deal with some of the issues, because there are so many of them. The Finder has about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 schools, from Bompere Senior High School to Fijai to Accra Girls to Achimota. In all these places, there are some concerns. Issues of National Health Insurance Scheme cards for students that were not there. Issues of students who have been posted to day schools, and they have traveled far away, and they will need to have so the key thing is those who are in charge to quickly get to these areas and find a way to deal with them. Other than that, we put these young ones.
Charlie, the licensure exam of the teachers, some of the English that I heard them speak was brutal English, and I looked at the timetable. In fact, it says that under it says it is not force.
There's no it's not
it's
force.
Not force. This is more like literal translation. But these are teachers who will be instructing our children, and they can't put A and B together. That's disastrous. And they are the first set of people who did not want to sit for the licensure exam. In fact, the people who are also instructing for the licensure exam were the ones who put out the notice, it's not force. Really? How?
Oh well.
So Bright has been talking about making public schools quality, more accessible, and to have a certain gravitas. It's more like saying that's okay.
Is it force?
Can you imagine?
Anyway,
Dr. Matthew Poku Prempe, good morning to you. This is a serious matter. We may be laughing over it, but this is a very serious matter.
Yes, but
that the foundation, and you see, most of these people are basic school teachers. So if the foundation is weak, your future is wobble.
They will use L1.
Are you kidding me?
They'll
use P to teach maths.
Yes.
So that when they are writing the BC, they write what the English in P.
At the basic level, if If a student is unable
Right.
to understand the Queen's language, you can use a local language.
Yes, but BEC is not administered in
Johnny, you don't
L1.
even need to have this discussion. Bright is just being naughty. But anyway, let's step out there and rant and find out what you think concerning this licensure exam for teachers.
Hello, good morning and welcome to another edition of your favorite show, Daily Rant, with me, Eric Yawaje from Takrade here in the Western region. Now, licensing exams for teachers by the National Teachers Council, the NTC, has commenced in earnest across the country. Before the commencement of the exams, the teachers expressed their displeasure with protests and demonstrations about the fact that they have to write a special exams before giving the license to teach. Nonetheless, the NTC was resolute. The exams commenced on Monday and has been fraught with delays and alleged cases of exam paper leaks. This is your Daily Rant. Let's keep talking.
The issues of the license exam seems an interesting debate from so many angles you're coming from. You get to realize that on one angle, the teachers seem to be right in their demand, supporting that with the fact that if you're comparing that to the nursing exam, the nurses have an internal exam situation. So at the end of the day, they need to be tested by an external body to actually confirm that they are of that standard they need. But as opposed to the teaching class, they always have their exam go through the University of Cape Coast, which is an external body to them. So already they are being trained externally and they go through that robust process of examinations already. So an additional burden on them is something that they think is actually too burdensome. On the other hand, the argument that some standards are not being met, then it means that we are not doing the right thing with the first exam.
So then it's a duplication of effort, you think?
Yes, it's more like a duplication than something to do with the right thing. Because if UCC is doing it, what are they doing not doing it right? Get them to correct it and works on.
When they actually training colleges in the United now, one wider abano or bond one and what there, Ufi school or Utum offer one another, but your other people like be a work today. Other institutions today, be a universities na be a private institution. Ada one more some education certificate. Na adan awo paper da wo be trade wo no. And this wo paper da be edwuma o GS. Ni bo bia refu mu wa ke na edwuma di so ne hye ofa odi eyi. Nti osin na se pede enyi e bia regular educational sector no. Na se e wo bia this institution about other ones that coach we edwuma na se pede yen for as GS da. And now no dam azino other exams no. Minimum koya, but I'm saying that the timing no, no, I very wrong. At least they should let the people get themselves prepared. One more time, be one more education sensitization no okoso ga man for to us. I think they perfect
I have a problem with the policy itself. And in policy implementation, there are stages. You can't just wake up one day and start to implement a policy. That is why we are having these challenges. As of today, Ebunum was started on the 7 o'clock. Ebunum was started on the 2 p.m. It is very wrong. This is a body. What about about my enemy from the better type of education? It is a one examination. One for proper procedure. Now I'm bring out the best out of the lot. Now then we have a problem in our education sector. But the whole holistically no, you share the policy no. Before the implementation. No, two. Are we saying that somebody who worked at training college for 3 years, now what about not get any certificate? No, about your exam, see now one pass. Are we saying that the person should go back to the street? And all these years now, you produce teachers, ma. What about we produce students, why graduates, why engineers, doctors now? Are we saying that the education sector, no, Ministry of Education, one education colleges, no, accreditation, what I'm want to produce the needed teachers, no? Is it wrong? Has there been any scientific findings in the quality of teachers we produce to even bring this whole policy? That is the problem I have. And if there is that finding, what are the ingredients that brought that finding? Is it that the teachers were not properly trained in the institutions, or the institutions were not properly accredited, or even the tutors of that institutions are not well trained? These are questions we need to ask.
With today's world of technology, it's quite easy to spread information. So if you are going to start at the same time, it should be at the same time. Even if you say they are not taking out the question papers, they have at least read the questions and they can spread that information. So if I'm writing the paper at 7 o'clock and somebody else is writing it at even 8 o'clock, it's obviously not I'm writing a past question. And it's obvious. And it happens everywhere when we know it. So I don't see how come a standard question paper would be written at different times. If it's a standard question paper, it should be written at the same time across. And if it is that we are writing different questions, then we could have the different times being taken for it. So for issues of timing, it is very important. And it all has to do with the idea that the policy has been rushed through. It could be good. As of yesterday, when the papers were being written, we realized that some people wrote as late as 2, 12, and co. And if I am writing earlier and somebody's writing late, what it means is that I have seen the questions already. So my pass mark is going to be quite high. So if you are pegging a pass mark at, say, 70, I can even be hitting 80, 90 because I wrote a pass question. So it means that those who wrote it early are going to be disadvantaged. And their pass rate is going to be affected. And obviously, they would have some issues to talk about, and it's going to be genuine. But for those of us who rate quite late, we expect to have a very good pass rate when it comes to them. Right.
For the policy, we are not against it. But compared to the nursing sector, and with the one licensing exams, we inculcate into the system. What we one semester, one end of program, no, I try one exams. That is the same way and what implemented war funding in the education sector. Because a billion year school on better 1 year, 2 years, next on quite licensing exams. While other colleagues now were nursing training colleges. All year school and all children exams in the Pansana, while be free.
Area education sector nankasano 208 nankenisha nanka obi training college is just giving certificates. About some state be and apply state leave na nyamanya bi mpo ansana tuma be courses bi na be diploma na ina neja policy be me nya oyedam de sunday na abanso oye, but part of them 208 act no, I think 77.8 section 9 or so. Okay, the teachers no as time go National Teaching Council no, they can implement a way where they improve teaching and learning by way of licensing the teachers. But as I said earlier, the policy itself it wasn't bad, but timing no this time the exams so three exams so any day no or them 1 year fair.
If it is always about the timing, what time is right?
Yeah, I think the enka said this year na enka say enyim da enka ye be na at least Chidam brother can wo school no no am what as the master right after normal schooling exams no ben for your licensure exams within this period you are going to do it nationwide on the same time the same but not nyama ayakama.
I think that it's a fair thing that government wants to license a professional body so that they can identify the members. If there's a problem they can go to.
Yeah, for that part of licensing for an education purpose, it is good enough. Usually you are able to set a standard for them and you are able to ask them to abide by some code of ethics. And for that particular aspect of it, everybody would agree with you and nobody would think that this part of it is wrong or right. We only have issues with the mode of implementation for now. The timings are not that right. And after that, if I have sat in the house for a year and a half, and you are asking me to come back to write an exam, that's going to be a bit difficult for me. By writing school, I'm made to understand that at the end of my 3rd year, I'm going to write an external exam to qualify me to be a teacher. I think that everybody would have it cool with that. Most of other bodies have those things. They have professional bodies. The accountants have theirs, the lawyers have theirs. And so it is not a bad thing at all to talk about the teachers also go in that form.
What have we done in the system to assess this type of policy? In a sense that people who have gone to do maybe early childhood for 3 years, he didn't do any other particular course apart from the early childhood. Then he comes out to write this licensure exams and fails. Are we saying that he should go to the street and look for a job elsewhere? So yeah, school where place in already in the teaching field. When he comes to write these exams and fails, are you saying that you are going to remove that person from the school?
I think a way of also bringing out the quality, not the quantity. Because since you know your other institutions apart from the mainstream College of Education, no, I want to on accreditation.
I don't side with you. When you talk about quality and quantity, are you saying that the accredited institutions don't produce the needed quality materials? These are institutions that have been accredited by Ministry of Education to channel this kind of programs. Then you are telling me that the products they bring out are not quality. Then we should collapse the institutions.
No, my brother. I'm not arguing, but you and I know what is going on in our institutions and that.
What is going on?
We don't want to go there. You know.
What is going on? What is going on?
Some of the institutions about them examination more practice than Yamana. Well, if you have
this exam they wrote today, is it going to prevent examination more practice? Is it going to remove that kind of perception?
No. You know, or yes, I'm saying, I mean, this is when you came to your institution, at least they done some internal examination, other things. On Kaya today, Biana, outside. Meanwhile, you went to journalism school.
It is the same thing. Even if you have your license, before they give you employment in any sector, you go for interview. The interview aptitude test is there for them to screen people from getting the particular placement.
If I have written a paper at 7 o'clock and somebody is obviously writing at 8 or 9, and I send whatever I had written, and it's going to be the same thing the person is coming to written, he has 10, 20, 30 marks ahead of me already before going into that paper. So if you are going to be rated based on the marks, he's far gone to me. So I think that we have that right and we should be able to look at that issue again.
I think that the best thing for the National Teaching Council to do is to cancel these exams and rewrite it, find an appropriate date and rewrite this exam, because there is not going to be fairness. Many exams questions, I will hear exams questions, and you might try and grade them the same level. Then there is no fairness, and we are going to use it to select some people at the expense of other people. It's a National Teaching Council. They should call these exams off and find an appropriate date. Set a new date. No one try exams sitting at the same time. Now there should be new questions. That is the only way we will know fairness to produce the needed quality they are looking for.
I'll say, Esha, obviously, opinion will be at a disadvantage.
Yeah, but animals me suppose I'm bread no. In fact, the man na the purpose no. You into me na ya achieve, and I think they need to cancel it, and maybe do proper arrangement for that, so that we cut across. If we boy in various institutions where the person had this colleges of education, maybe only one or be on nationwide one time. One president may train SSC and NBC. I don't know. Not that I don't know why be fine. Mo abuama as na quality na ye peno. Ye to me then yenya because I had them that obaho adwen and buama yenya the kind of product that we want to come into the system.
The consensus is that because some of the teachers started way ahead of others, they probably may have the opportunity to look at the exams papers before writing them. So the idea is that the NTC may want to consider cancelling the whole examination paper and setting new dates for the papers to be written. What do you think? You can go onto our various social media platforms and rant there. This has been your daily rant with me, Eric Hiawaje from Takrady.
Right, thanks so much for your time this morning once again. And Daily Graphic, Bank of Ghana injects more dollars into economy. The photograph of the governor is there on the front page. And then the Free Senior High School reopening for the new semester has a lot of ink. Almost every newspaper has that story, from the Finder to the Daily Guide to Graphic, Daily Graphic and the Ghanaian Times, all of them here talking about issues that have to be dealt with. A lot of complaints from parents. You can see the Finder cataloging about some 8 schools where parents and students are complaining about one thing or the other. From Kimbu Senior Technical to Fijai to Bompe, Chimota and Accra Girls. Every school has an issue to deal with, from National Health Insurance cards, Suhum Islamic. All students made day students, even though there are boarding facilities. in Takra, they were told that some parents who went there have, though, gone through challenges, are happy that at least the awards have been placed. We'll take a look at that. The Bank of Ghana's issue is so high on the agenda this morning. My guest to do the talking from the University of Education, Winneba, lecturer, Dr. Ahmed Jenapo is here. Good morning. I'm grateful for your time with us this morning. And his birthday is today, and so I have decided to let the cat out of the bag. Honorable Alhaji Suhini is here. Today is his birthday. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
We won't ask for the party, but we'll get crashed.
You owe me a party for letting it out.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll give you the option of inviting who you want.
Okay, all right. I'll do that. I'll do that. Happy birthday once again.
Thank you very much, boss.
And I'm sure Madam and the kids will have more of that later in the day. All right. So let's start this morning with Free Senior High School. Yesterday started, and if you read some of the stories, Daily Guide says that double track takes off smoothly. That's how the story is put on Daily Guide. The Finder also says turnout high. That's the Finder. Graphic says double track takes off. If you go into the stories, parents are complaining about one thing or the other. How do we ensure that these challenges are dealt with? Dr. Ahmed Jenapo, this is a story that is too well known. The challenges are many, from people traveling to schools that are day schools, and so would have to find accommodation, to situations where in some schools officials are demanding national health insurance cards before registration. We're told that in some other schools, birth certificates are being asked of from parents. The challenges we cannot ignore. But how do we quickly deal with them to ensure that we have these kids properly settled to begin academic? Dr. Jenapo, let me start the conversation with you.
Well, let me say good morning to your cherished viewers and to wish my brother and MP happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
It's good that at least I get to meet him on his birthday.
I feel honored.
Yes, sir. Right. Let me correct something. I don't think Free SHS started yesterday. It started somewhere last year.
Okay.
What started yesterday happened to be a double tracking program. And I think depending on how you look at it, you rightly said the Daily Graphic says that it took off successfully.
Right.
And I think that's coming from the Minister of Education. And based on some of the reportage that you gave emanating from concerns of parents, I think you gave about 7 schools and stuff like that. Some parents are worried, and I'm not surprised that it's happening. It's been characteristic with our kind of placement system that we've had. In fact, I will not attribute that to the double track system, in the sense that there have been instances where even previously people have been placed in schools which are supposed to be boarding, but they go there and they are day students.
Right.
In fact, there have been times that people have been placed in schools that they are for the physically challenged. There have been instances of that sort. But I wouldn't say the program is successful or a failure as of now. Because the success of a program is not just about placement, especially when it comes to school, but we are looking at how it can positively transform the individual. So we need to make a distinction between schooling and education. And as I said, I'm not surprised, because when you have this number of students who are supposed to be enrolled in school, we have 2 tracks. The first track they were supposed to report yesterday. Then the second track, I think they start somewhere in November. So for you to ask all groups of people to register at the same time, you are definitely going to have a challenge, because my understanding is even those who are supposed to enroll in November had to register yesterday. Right. So if the schools,
that's information.
That's the information which I thought was a wrong move. If the schools cannot accommodate them, and as a result of that you are splitting them into 2, why do you put so much pressure on the schools for them to admit them at the same day? I would have thought that they should have made the first batch of students register as of yesterday. Then the second batch probably enrolls in November. Beyond that, most of the things that are being asked for, I thought, looking at the exigency of the situation as at now, birth certificate, NHIS card, they should have been delayed. You know, at the universities, we normally have something called cross-checking of people's certificates, because it so happened that somebody might come to school with a fake certificate. But during the time of registration, there's so much pressure that if you want to go in to check for all these things, it will delay the process. I would not be surprised if it takes even about a week for students to be registered, because of the enormity of the numbers that we have. And looking at the shortness of the period that they will be in school. Mind you, they reported yesterday, they will be closing, I think the second batch will be coming on the 8th of November. So that is about 41 days. 41 days or thereabouts. I mean,
by the end of October, they should be getting ready
to leave. Mind you, you need to make room for examination. So how many days are they going to have for direct contact hours? That needs to be calculated. So moving forward, I think in future, all of these things needs to be looked at. And I will recommend, you are very much aware that there are some parents who still haven't had placement. Right. At least about 60-something thousand people having been placed. Whether they will be on the first track or the double track is a different issue. I think that moving forward, I must say, look, this free SHS program, whether you like it or not, under the Nanado administration is something that has come to stay. The only time that there might be a change is probably maybe post-2020 if NDC happens to come in power. But under Nanado's administration, he's made it categorically clear that free SHS is going to stay. So if it's going to stay, all we need to do as citizens is to look at how we can profess recommendations in terms of how it can be fashioned in a way that will be good for the benefit of this country. And I think the time for the writing of BC vis-a-vis when students go to school needs to be looked at. If you remember, when did the results come out? Immediately the results came out, it was about a week or two before they. So there's always pressure on on parents. And if those pressures can be eased by even looking at the timing for the writing of the exam, or even the timing for the release of the results, such that there can be at least a month interval for placement and for reporting and for even admission to be given. That will ease the pressure on parents. But all in all, I will say that, look, this whole free SHS concept, posited within the spectrum of the double track, we cannot make an assessment of it until probably when the students are about to graduate. Because the means of evaluating a student is not entering school or being in class, but it's about whether there have been any positive empirical behavioral change on the part of the individual. And I would not want to use just exams as the means of assessing them. I mean, exams is one of the aspects, but what kind of student are we going to produce? And I believe that this whole SHS system should not be limited to just schooling. We are looking at education, and much emphasis must also be placed on, when they are home. I haven't had what will have to be done. I haven't heard of any serious policy program that will be used to accommodate these students whilst they are home. Mind you, they are going to be home for a very long time. They are going to be home for at least 2 months thereabout. And you and I know when you stay home for that long. I've heard at least the deputy PRO for GES saying that they'll be organizing extra classes in churches for them. I think I can't understand what he means. I think we need to have a serious policy dealing with those who are home, because the first track are in school now, the double track are home. They don't go to school till somewhere in November.
I'm grateful. So the challenges are there. How do we deal with them? So many of them.
Well, before, let me say good morning to you and good morning to Doc. It's always a pleasure to share this platform with you. And good morning to our viewers. Before I look at perhaps how we should be dealing with this problem, I think it's important for us to also review the processes that led to where we are and why it is the way it is. And Doc has said something that, reiterate a point that I have always held from the beginning when we started this whole discussion about the free SHS, that schooling should not be equated to education. That is a position I have always held, because when you listen to many of the discussions held around the policy of making secondary school free, it seems to me that the proponents of this policy equate schooling to education. And so the question of what graduates of secondary school are expected to do or become is not critically examined and answers found to it. It is as if once you have secondary education or secondary schooling, let me not even say education, once you have secondary schooling, you are in a position to contribute meaningfully to the country and to your own progress, which is not the case. We have many secondary school dropouts even before the introduction of the free senior high school. What have been the level of productivity from those who could not continue after secondary school? So making all citizens have access to secondary education will not automatically lead to the production of more doctors, like some of the communication and adverts seems to portray. That the more access you give people, the more, more productive citizens you have. It's not automatic. You can have a system that will allow everybody to go to secondary school, but the output or the output after secondary school, the number of people who will even be qualified to go to the university will reduce. Or even if it increases because of the large numbers, the quality of education that they have that will lead to quality human resource development will be diminished. And you would have been, achieving nothing. But it is portrayed as if secondary education, once everybody, has secondary schooling, not even education, then we are good to go. I think that has to, be addressed properly. Now, how did we get here? It is all this confusion and what I call lack of honesty in the discussion that has led us to this point. Nobody in this country, at least in the two major political parties, have ever been against the introduction of free secondary education.
The NPP said the NDC is against it.
That is the dishonesty that I'm talking about. The dishonesty that has always surrounded the discussion is what has led us to this place. Nobody has ever been against the introduction and implementation of the FSHS. Nobody. The argument has always been the best way to do it and the best time to do it, considering existing issues. Because free secondary education will always be done in context, and it should be viewed as such. The context being, what are the prevailing challenges with our education at the secondary level? How do we address those challenges? Do we have the capacity to? But as for freeness of education, it's in our constitution, which was adopted and voted for by all of us in 1992. And so if one is against the freeness of education in this country, then you are against the constitution. Because the constitution says education will be progressively free. And that is why we started with FQ. And the FQ was to, make way for secondary education, and if possible, even tertiary education. because that is the thinking of the framers of the Constitution. But that dishonesty, that some people are against it for whatever reason, has led us to a situation where we have not analyzed the policy properly. So, for example, when it was even introduced last year, there was no policy in place, no policy document that stakeholders could lay hands on to predict what is going to happen. People raised the issues that, look, even before the introduction, in opposition, when we were asked, when people who were proposing this were asked about the budget for the implementation, we're told they had the costs outlined, they had the projections, and nothing was going to take anybody by surprise. That's the dishonesty. Then we get into the implementation stage. You ask of that policy document that informed the promise, and there was none. We're told the policy document was in the works till today. And it is because of the lack of the policy document that we have a situation where it's as if we have employed an architect to build a house. This architect doesn't have a plan. So he starts the building, and as he goes, he takes rooms out, he adds rooms, he takes roofs out as he goes, depending on the situation. So you introduce it without estimating how much it's going to cost. And in the process, you find yourself mopping resources from almost every sector to put into it. You do so by denying other sectors the funds they would have had to carry out the needed projects. And you also do not even get the results that you were expecting from free SHS. So the numbers overwhelm you, and then midway you introduce a shift system. Because if we had a policy track system, it's a shift system. I mean, however you decorate it, those are some of the beautiful lies that we have to stop telling the people of Ghana if we really want the success of some of these programs. No matter how you color it, it's a shift system. Some are going to school now, some are going to stay home. What is a shift system? So you shift the budgets. That's what it is. So you introduce a shift system in the middle of the program, and you say that is smart, that is innovative. If you had planned ahead, you would have projected the numbers, you would have known that you may need this system even from the implementation stage, and all stakeholders would have been told that when we introduce free SHS, for the first 5 or 6 years, we are going to introduce a shift system so that all stakeholders would have been on board. But how many days did it take to train stakeholders? In some cases, 1 week or 2 weeks after the announcement of the shift system. Because you see, it was a crash program.
Does it suggest that the problems we're seeing, we cannot overcome them?
What I'm saying is that first of all, we need to be honest about it. Once we are honest that we have a problem, we didn't think through properly. Let's admit that. It's a good policy, but we did not think through it properly. So, like the former President John Mahama suggested, let's have stakeholders discussions. We didn't think through it properly. We are in the middle of the sea. In fact, one of the ministers said so when they were announcing the shift system called double track, that it's an emergency, innovation that they are bringing. You only introduce an emergency plan when things take you by surprise.
Okay.
So it is an admission that it was not thought through properly. Okay, and so we are in the middle. So when we understand, when we accept that we did not think through it properly, we will now go back to the drawing board together as Ghanaians and see how we can arrest the situation and improve it better. The dishonesty is not only even in the things that I have said, but also even in the numbers that we are told, because they are not planning, because they are not doing proper projections. You have the numbers being thrown about left, right,
numbers that have been
in terms of numbers that are being admitted. For example, the president consistently has told us that this year about 180,000 students are coming on board. When you interrogate the figures released by the Ministry of Finance and by the Ministry of Education, you find clear inconsistencies.
It's not up to 180,000.
It is not even up to it's not even up to 80,000. In fact, the average figure you see is around 62,000. And that is even when you are so generous in doing the comparisons between the Ministry of Finance figures and the Ministry of Education figures and the President figures.
Okay.
The average you get is about 62,000.
Okay.
And you see the danger
Wrap
even
up for
in
me.
that, right, thank you. The danger even in that is the possible corruption with how people can take advantage of these confused numbers to exploit the system. So, for example, the finance minister projects that we are going to admit, say, 100,000 students for 2017. Remember, the fees are paid by the government and it is transferred to the accounts of, say, the Ministry of Education or GES. If it turns out that you have less number of students, who takes that extra money?
I see.
So that is why it's important that we are honest about the discussion, because that honesty is what will lead to clarity for us to understand what the real problems are and then begin to proffer solutions.
Dr. Jinapo, so this argument that a stakeholders meeting will fix this, you see the education minister, you listen to the president, the body language, the commentary, you see this coming up, a stakeholders conference?
Well, I will come to that, but
Okay.
I think there are a number of issues that my good brother has raised, and I think they need to be explained or clarified. Number one, when the minister and I don't want to sound as if I'm a spokesperson for government or the minister, but I look at things from an objective perspective. If the minister says that we are going to have 180,000 extra, it's a projection.
Okay, so it cannot be
Yes,
that
it's
there's
a
180,000.
projection. It cannot be 180,000.
Okay.
So that needs to be understood. Number two, I think on Monday, you weren't on this platform, but the Deputy Minister for Communication, Mr. George Anda, was here on this same platform with Mr. Felix Ofusukwachi. And I think Felix raised this same issue of there not being a policy. George, I'll watch the program, said that there's a policy. And I think this confusion needs to be settled by you, the media, taking it upon yourself to verify and to authenticate whether there's a policy that guided this program or not. I think it's a response, because this debate about whether there's a policy, there's no policy, I think it needs to be settled.
If there's a policy, where will it be?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking
This is
you.
from the Minister of Education.
The Deputy
so
Minister
that policy should be
the
on
Deputy
their
Minister
website.
for Communication, and I'm making reference to this particular platform.
Right.
He said that. Number three, yes, I agree with my brother Sohini that look, we need to be very, very careful not to more or less replace education with schooling. And he makes the argument that this whole cliche that everybody who goes to free SHS is going to be somebody in future needs to be what? Needs to be disabused. But let's also look at the reverse. If you happen not to go to SHS at all, what happens? Do you get a point? If you happen not to go to SHS at all, I happen to be here because I benefited from free SHS by virtue of the fact that I'm a Northerner. I am not against, and I will never sit here to be against the free SHS policy. There's no doubt about it. And I think the NDC have always stated that they are not against it, but the manner in which it is being done. And that is where I expect the NDC to come up with what? Alternative solutions. What is their position when it comes to free SHS?
The progressives?
They've talked about the progressive. But as it stands now, the former president said that there should be a stakeholders consultation. I think that is an overly simplistic solution. I would have thought that they should have come up with concrete well thought through what alternative. This is where we are. And mind you, free SHS, whether you like it or not, there's no way that we will be able to reverse it. There can be modifications. And I think there will be modifications even if the NDC come into power. Because changing it entirely will be catastrophic for the NDC as a political party. Think about it. Your child goes to school for free today. You don't pay school fees. 4 years' time, you are told to pay school fees. There needs to be a modification if the NDC happens to be in power. And that is where I think, talking about honesty, the NDC also has to be honest by telling we Ghanaians, what is it that we are going to do? Today we are talking about double track. Double track, according to the NDC, is shift system. Okay. In the situation that we find ourselves, what are you going to do? Are you going to do double track, or we are going to do triple track, or we are going to do half track? What track are you going to operate? The truth of the matter is that, Bright, let's face it, you are a journalist and you know what happened last year. There has been an increase in the number of entrants in free SHS in schools. Wherever they are coming from, I don't know. But there has been an increase. And the increase can be attributed to what? Free SHS. I have always said that, look, this whole double track system, even though it is too late, moving forward, it is important for us to look at how we can tap in the private institutions.
They have raised that.
I mean, what is wrong with that?
They claim that this 180,000, they can easily
could have absorbed them.
These
They could have absorbed them, so that we would have left ourselves off the hook of this whole stress.
So isn't this one of the reasons why a stakeholders forum it could be used to deal with some of the challenges? Because certainly the Association of Private Schools, private senior high schools, would be invited to this forum.
I am not,
and where this can be discussed.
I'm not saying that the stakeholders meeting is not necessary, but I think it is an overly simplistic solution.
To say that?
Yes. I think the NDC have all kinds of people who have the knowledge, the know-how in terms of how to run our educational system. So they should come up with a solution. You remember the Century, what do they call it? The Century Consensus Forum that they had. Did the NDC and the NPP participate? No. You know how polarized this country is. When you talk about stakeholders consultation, in fact, I can tell you that maybe the Minister of Education is not even interested in the views of what? Rahul Suhini. Right. You get the point.
Just because it belongs to the NDC.
That is the kind of system that we operate. So I want to hear the alternative from the NDC. What are they doing
to correct
the supposed challenges that we have?
Okay.
And that said, I also would suggest that the NPP as a government must also be a listening government. They cannot take entrenched positions. If you take this issue about the private institutions, I mean, we have private secondary institutions that have produced students that have gone to the best of universities in these countries and have done the best of programs. Why is it that we couldn't bring them in? If the private school pays, let's say, 2,000 for a student and government is paying 1,000, what is wrong with the private institution absorbing the person?
Doc, I'm grateful. I have run out of time. Quickly, just 1 minute. But I wanted to talk about the city.
I thought we had so much time.
Yes, we don't have a lot of time. We've run out of time.
Just
quickly.
First of all, Doc talks about the need for us to also have
the
alternatives. And you mentioned progressively free, which we were starting with, which our opponents again kicked against. But it is obvious, Doc, to all of us that what we are experiencing now, even in its state, is a progressively free SHS, not the wholesale free SHS that was promised.
Okay.
So it tells you clearly that there was some wisdom in the suggestion to do this progressively. Because the wholesale promise was that everyone will have free SHS once the MPP came to power. Now they are doing it progressively. That is why we even have the last year we didn't have shift system. Now we have shift system. That is progressive. Last year there were only first years. Now we have second years. That's progressive. So there is some sense in it. And if perhaps people had listened to each other more, we would have picked some wisdom from each other. And that takes me to the call for a stakeholders conference. I don't think it is simplistic. It is an acknowledgement of the fact that wisdom does not reside in one man's head. So the NDC, even though wants, to lead this country, we want to lead it with the brains and thoughts and minds and ideas of all Ghanaians. That is why it is important that we don't sit in our, office, like perhaps maybe the MPP did, and cook solutions and come and sugarcoat those solutions only to gain votes, to realize that implementation will be a challenge. We want a buy-in. That is why we are saying that let's have this stakeholder conference. Again, when you say that the NPP is not interested in the views of Honorable Sohino or the NDC, I agree with you.
Because of the kind of politics
because the NPP is not a listening government. The NPP thinks that they know it all.
But is the NDC a listening government?
That is why the NDC, that's why I'm happy he cited the Senchi consensus. It was organized by the NDC and invitations extended to the NPP. The NPP as a party boycotted, but some of its members attended, and those who attended were criticized and chastised. That is the nature of the NPP. And you can trace it back to even 1992 when elections were boycotted. Once it is not in the way of the NPP or it's not in the interest of the party philosophy, then Ghana can sink. But we in the NDC are those calling for the stakeholders conference, so there's no way we'll boycott it if one is organized.
Okay.
And then maybe finally, the increase in enrollment, I acknowledge.
He says it's 180,000 is a projection.
No, 180,000, if you look at the way it was put, yes, it's a projection, but Doc is a scholar. The margin of error between 180,000 and about 60,000 is simply unacceptable. It simply tells you that you did not do your homework well. If you do a projection of 180,000,
I don't think we have the actual figures.
No, the actual figures actually, the GS have released the actual figures.
So that 6,000 is your figure or the GS?
The GS figures is around 62,000.
I'm saying that
if you look at the Ministry of Education figures, in fact, and I'm being generous because it can even be less. If you look at the ministry, I don't have the actual figures on my fingertips, but if you look at the Ministry of Education figures, it is not consistent with the figures in the budget, even though it is close. It's around 60,000. But that is way out of the league of the 180,000 that the president has been touting. Then finally, the increase in intake that I spoke about. The increase in intake, once again, Doc is a scholar. We have not done any empirical study to show that the increment in intake this year is directly related to the introduction of free SHS.
But that's the perception.
What we know is that every year enrollment has increased from the time that this secondary education started. The increment has been consistent. Every year the numbers increase. There may be some, unless we do an empirical study to know that it's as a result of the senior high school.
There are studies to that.
Yes.
So I don't want to push this too far, but
Right.
there's evidence to the fact that every year when you admit students in northern part of Ghana, about 13% do not enroll.
Because of...
they do not enroll.
Okay.
Those who are admitted, 13%. When you come to southern Ghana, about 26 to 30% do not enroll. Those who are admitted. So
the result is that they don't have the financing to do that.
Whatever it is, whatever it is.
Or that's
no,
not
whatever it is. No, whatever it is. The point
I'm
I'm making is that whatever it is, but you can infer that if last 2 years, 13% of northern Ghana do not enroll, 30% of southern Ghana do not enroll, and last year the number has dropped from 30% in southern Ghana to probably 5 to 10%. But inference is because they didn't have school fees.
But then again, what is important? What is important is what Doc said. He just spoke about free education in the north that he benefited from. But then again, even with that, 13%.
About 13%.
Even with the free.
Even with it. So it tells you that that may not really be our major challenge as a country. That is why it's important to have an empirical discussion.
Yes, but we have to wrap up. Yes, I wanted us to talk about the city, but I have run out of time. Wow. Yes, the Bank of Ghana has injected some more dollars to shore up the city's value, and we couldn't talk about it because we ran out of time.
In fact, last year, the Bank of Ghana injected about 287 million.
Right.
Just to shore up the city. And so far, we are told that they have injected close to $150 million again. And the year is only... we are in the third quarter now. And yet, the results is only, you know, for us to see.
Could it be Christmas? And so,
and again, right? That is the honesty bit of it. This was a party that told us.
Don't compare the Nanadu 2 years to your mama's first 2 years.
No,
your mama's first 2 years,
no.
it went by about 60 to 70%.
No, but you see, that is true.
Your mama took it from 180 at 1.80. Then by first it was 3.
What were the solutions that were proffered?
I'm not happy about the fall of the city. I'm not happy as it stands. Exactly. But the truth.
The solution. I agree with you, Doc. I agree with you. But what I'm saying,
are we doing enough to ensure that this?
They need to do more. They need to do. The NDC have every reason to criticize the MPP.
Yes,
but they have to be very, very conscious the way they.
No, let's look at. You see, we don't criticize. We don't criticize so that we look good. We criticize based on what the true situation is. What did the NDC say were the problems? Were those, you know, conclusions that the NDC came out as the problems accepted by the MPP?
Profess alternatives. That's the.
Do you understand? Today, what are the problems they are touting? For example, we talked about the global, you know, financial
that's a key
institution. Today, that is what they are saying, but they made it seem like it was incompetent.
So you have to make your case.
So we are looking at how we were addressing it. We're talking about production, and that is when President Mahama talked about the importation of sugar, the importation of tomato, and the need to produce these things. And the Commander Sugar Factories and others started. You will admit.
Dr. Alex Inapo is from the University of Education, Winneba. Grateful for your time. Honorable Alhaji Suyin is a member of the NDC, member of Parliament for the Tamale North constituency. Grateful for your Wednesday morning with us. Stay with us. We have more on the platform.
Well, we're still here. We're talking about the biggest thing that hit the tech industry, still talking about Samsung Galaxy Note 9. We're going to tell you more about the launch and how the reviews have been so far. Joining me is Tracy Che. She is the marketing manager for Samsung Ghana, and also Kwame, who is at MG Digital here at TV3. Good morning, gentlemen and lady.
Good morning.
So, Tracy, you had a very amazing launch of the Samsung Galaxy Note 9. They were very influential people, but tell us how that went.
Okay, the launch was really good, and what we intended to do was to let people give their testimonial. So it's not so much about Samsung is saying A, B, C. We wanted our consumers and partners to actually know what people think and how they feel about the device, because like we've said, it's the most powerful device on the market today, and we wanted that to come from people who have used the device for about 2-3 weeks. Kwame was, I'm sure he'll be able to attest to all of that. We also had a lot of demonstrations. For instance, we had Kobe Spike, he's a tech guy. He did a lot of demos with the device. We had an artist who actually showed how you can use the pen to do fantastic and amazing work. We also had the business director from Vodafone. So Vodafone Business, yes, the director was there. He's used the device. He talked about the power. He talked about the storage. He talked about how the DeX works perfectly and how he can use it in meetings and how it enhances his life. So
just so viewers know, we're showing you some clips of what went on at the launch, showing you the Galaxy Note 9 as it is, so you can watch that as well. But anyway, so after all these people spoke, what was the feedback, the general feedback like? Is everyone happy with this game changer?
Certainly. And see, the best part about any product is if you're selling a product that you actually believe in and you use, you don't need to say much, I mean, when you have events, sometimes you always have to coerce people to clap, but this time the features and what it could do was just really great because people can see how it enhances their lives. I believe that most of us are power users because today we use our mobile phones for practically everything. So to get something that is great in terms of speed, performance, and power, I think everybody just saw it, they realized it, and I'm sure a lot of people would want a device that can keep up with them.
Right. But Kwame, I'll come to you because you were also there. So can you tell us exactly what, having used it and what the reviews were, whether it tallies up to what you've experienced. But let me come back to you, Tracy, and ask about, there was an artist there, a young man using the whole pen and everything, some of the tools that the Samsung Galaxy Note 9 has. Tell us exactly how useful it is to someone who draws and does all the cartoons and everything.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Note is mainly known for the pen, the S Pen, and you can use it to do different things. For instance, you can change the way the pen writes. So for instance, you can use it as a brush, or so you can use it to paint. We also have an app called Pen Up. You know, and it shows you, you can do like a live drawing. It shows you how people actually use it to do creative work, designs, and it can even show you how to draw. Because then you can sort of follow what people are doing.
Right.
So it's all in the S Pen, and this is one of the cool features. So it's not just a business device, but it's a productivity tool for anybody. So whether you're an artist, whether you're a business professional, whether you're a blogger, or regardless of what you do, there's always a use that you can get out of the Note 9.
But so now let me come to you, Kwame. Having experienced it, like Tracy said, they don't just want it to be talk, talk, talk. But for you, you haven't touched it, haven't held it, used it for about 2 weeks. What has it been like?
I think the Note 9 is the best device ever yet. You know, because, so me and you, we come to work very early. So 5 a.m. I leave the house and I'm coming to work. I charge my phone once and I don't want to touch my, I may not get the time to charge my phone again before the day is over.
Run.
Exactly. I'm always on the move doing something. And this is the case that I charge my phone at 5 a.m. and I leave home and I come to work and my power still stays on till I leave the office. Sometimes I get to the house around 9 p.m. and I still have power in my phone. What is it? What?
And so Kwame, it's not like Wi-Fi will call you and you say, "Oh, my phone was off."
My phone was
the
off.
battery was dead.
I'm sorry, you can't give this excuse.
No, it doesn't work.
Because your phone will not die.
It just changed the game for you.
Exactly. And this phone has worked so much great for me. I love music a lot.
Okay.
So with the S Pen, when I'm playing music and I don't have, I cannot be tapping next. I just press tap the button on the pen and then it switches to the next song I want to listen to. It feels great. If I'm doing presentations and I launch this thing, I just have to next, touch tap the button and then it goes off just like that.
So easy.
You know, so because I'm a tech guy, I write a blog, Tech Stripped. So if I'm reading other news, I don't need to use my hand to be scrolling and scratching my screen and all of that. I just have to tap with the S Pen, press the button, and it scrolls down and up for me. This Note 9, I think, is the best thing to happen to anybody that loves and is a power user of phones. So, so Tilapia, for instance, like the way Tracy was talking about, Tilapia draws all these things. If Tilapia gets this phone, it would be an amazing tool for him. You know, so he would just be doing all his creative stuff on there. If you are a business exec and you travel around and you have to go and do presentations, you don't need to carry a laptop. Laptops are getting obsolete right now, you know. So you just take your phone, you have a DeX cable, you go connect it to a screen, and then that's all. You are doing your presentations and you are on the go. If you are a gamer and you want a phone that has high performance enhancements, this phone is for you. Fortnite is the game that was launched with this phone, and Fortnite is a very heavy game and it needs great graphics with no latency. You can play that game on this phone and it is as smooth as it is. So just like how Tracy said, this phone is like, it's for everybody. They made this so that everybody would get to enjoy and use the phone. And I would really, this morning when I went to do login, Winston was asking me why he should get this one. I was telling him that Winston, that you're a radio presenter, that you move around a lot, you leave home at dawn. You need a phone that can stay up and then get you to be active all day through. And I think it's the Note 9.
Great. So Tracy, Kwame has been giving all the amazing features that he has had the chance to experience, but are there any additional features we should know about?
There are a lot of cool features that you should know. We have what we call multitasking. So you have the multitasking window where you can do 2 different things on your screen. The great thing about this, because a lot of devices also offer this, but the great thing is it's a huge screen. So you have enough space to do 2 things. You know, you can WhatsApp, go through a presentation, you have enough space to do it. If, for instance, you want to scroll between, let's say you're on WhatsApp, but you want to go back to your internet, you know, you just have to swipe from left to right. You know, you don't have to go back, open it, just go back to the next one. There are things like, we know about screen write, so you just press the button. You can just simply write anything. If you're sending a drawing to somebody or you're going through a press release, you can just like simply underline it. There are things like Reminder that works with Bixby. You know, you don't necessarily have to go into your calendar to set a reminder. You can just tap the button and you just put it in. So these are like very small but very useful features that I think whether you're a business executive or just an individual, like I said, we're all power users and we want the best out of everything that we do. We want the simplest and the fastest way to do everything. You see. And this is why the Note to me is not just a phone, but it's a tool that everybody needs.
Everybody must have.
Everybody must have, you know.
Right.
If you just want that easy, comfortable life, because today the phone has become part of our lives, you know. We hardly move without the phone, you know. So if you have one that gives you everything, does everything, and helps make your life simpler, then I think that's what we all want. That's what we all need.
Anyway, so your final words from Samsung Ghana, what should we expect? What do you have in store for us?
Final words are, I've said this a couple of times, that we're all power users. We want the best in everything. Samsung listens. Samsung uses its technology, human resource, everything that it has to produce products that enhance the life of consumers. And that's exactly why the Galaxy Note 9 was manufactured. It has everything that you would need to make your life easier, better, and efficient.
I couldn't have done her job better, but she's marketed it right out there, told you why you need to get it. It's not only for power users. Everybody has a share in this Samsung Galaxy Note 9. So go out there, go to the shops and grab your own. Make sure you do get one, because this year everybody must make a point, at least save. Try starting now. You certainly will get the amount to get that, because it makes life so easy and comfortable. I have been speaking to Tracy Che. She is the marketing manager for Samsung Ghana, and also Kwame. He is at MG Digital, and he has been using the phone for the past 2 weeks. He has experienced it. He's shared his experience. So it's not just Tracy and Samsung telling you about it, but there have been people who have actually used it, and they're also recommending it to you. So go out there and grab yours. Thank you so much, gentlemen and lady, for joining us. We'll take a break. We'll be back here with more on New Day. Stay with us.
As the world mourns the former UN Secretary General and Ghana preparing to lay Kofi Annan to rest, we've been joined by the UN representative for the West Africa and the Sahel. Also, he's the man to speak with at UNIWAS. He's a lawyer, a politician, an academic. Even Chambers is my guest. Doc, welcome.
Thank you very much.
How are you doing?
We're good.
It's always a pleasure to have you.
Under the circumstances.
We're not so happy because we lost a doyen of international politics and diplomacy, Kofi Annan. The man Kofi Annan, how did you know him?
Well, I had the opportunity to meet him when I was still in Ghana at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and one of my visits to New York, I was informed that there was a very senior Ghanaian at the UN headquarters. So I asked that an appointment be made for me to pay a courtesy call on him. And from that first encounter, it was just very good chemistry and bonding, and he encouraged me to reach out anytime I was in New York. And, you know, so subsequent visits, he would invite me out for lunch, for dinner, you know, and that's how it all started. And then, of course, when he decided to run for the position of Secretary General, I was privileged to be certainly one of the first Ghanaians that he mentioned.
What role did you play in his race or interest to become Secretary General?
Well, I was very central to that whole campaign because early on, one of the contenders who happened to be Foreign Minister of neighboring Côte d'Ivoire had also been interested, and he had dropped me a hint that Kofi wanted to see me because there may be some indications that he might not have the full support of the government. And so when I met Kofi, he did indicate that he would like my advice how to go about this campaign, and that his colleague, his friend, the Ivorian minister, had hinted him that he had picked up some signals that he may not have the full support of the government. I disabused his mind of that, and then I advised him to come home, and then some meetings were arranged here, and of course he got the full endorsement, and then a campaign team was put together, which essentially I led at that point. And the rest, as they say, is history.
So he was a mentor for you.
No question about that.
At the UN.
Yes.
Would you say that his life in the public domain, in everybody's eye, as the doyen of peace across the globe, was the same thing that he had behind the scenes?
He was a very peaceful person by nature, very calm disposition, very gentle, very courteous. And that's the thing that endeared him to so many of his admirers, including, first of all, those who worked closely with him. He didn't distinguish between a senior person, low-level person. His approach to every person who worked with him was the same, was one of respect and dignity, and allowing everybody to approach him and to be able to put across their views.
Did you ever see him angry?
On occasion, you know, he was somebody who wanted things done thoroughly. And he wanted, you know, and also done in a timely fashion. I recall in particular one time, right here in Accra, when during one of the Ivorian peace talks, there was a delay. You know, these processes can drag on. Absolutely. And especially at the end of the day, when everything was concluded, and yet the final communique was being delayed. I saw him at that point a bit agitated, but he was not one to blow into a tantrum or anything like that. But you could see that he was feeling frustrated that maybe the document was not being produced at UN speed.
Let's talk about his legacies. Top three, which ones do you remember?
Top three, without a doubt, the agenda for peace. This was a document that when he assumed the Secretary Generalship, he initiated and appointed a very respected another African diplomat, Algerian, Brahimi, to review the entire approach of the UN to peacekeeping. And they came out with this document, the Agenda for Peace, which put heavy emphasis on prevention of conflict. That the UN should not just be about deploying troops, that there has to be a more comprehensive approach. There has to be a continuum. You look at what do we do to prevent peace, outbreak of conflicts. And when they have broken out, what can the UN do to facilitate quick mediation so that things don't blow out of control? Of course, if they do, and we have to deploy troops, even the deployment of troops should not be strictly just a military approach, affair. It should be a comprehensive, to have a civilian component, to, you know, to see how you work with women, with young people, in that context of deployment of a peace mission. And then, when the fires have doused out and things that, not to just pack and leave. How do we make sure we sustain the peace by at least initiating, engendering some quick impact and quick development?
And that plan is still in place.
And it's still very much the approach in the UN now.
Which are the other two that you remember?
The other two would be his entire role in the area also of working with regional organizations. The AU. All others, ECOWAS, yeah. I mean, I was privileged to be at the ECOWAS when he was Secretary General, and he placed tremendous emphasis on let's build capacities of regional organizations. The world has become complex. The UN cannot solve all the problems. So if we empower organizations that are close to conflict areas, they take the initial initiatives, and then, for instance, in Africa, let the ECOWAS be first to see what it can do. Then the AU comes in, then the UN. And this synergy is really appreciated. The third area is in the area of development and human rights. Kofi's view is that the UN should work on three pillars. First and foremost, the peace and security. Secondly, the development side, because there's an inextricable link between peace, security, and development. If one is not there, the other is likely to be undermined. But there's the third pillar of human rights, justice, democracy. You know, when you're able to create an environment in societies where there's rule of law, democratic governance, then you eliminate sources of conflict and crisis and issues that are likely to trigger
Interesting.
conflict.
Kofi Annan has been eulogized across board. I mean, you have world leaders eulogizing him in many different forms and words. For the average Ghanaian politician, especially because he comes from Ghana, what lessons can we draw from his life? The politics of insult, the politics of vituperations, the politics of lies and deceit, the politics of promising one thing and not doing. What can we draw from Kofi Annan's life?
Yeah, there's just his approach to issues, his humanity, his humility, and yet all of that is also undergirded by, you know, competence in whatever he takes on, respect for people that he works with, and a clear vision, a perspective, which commits one to always put the people and the interests of the people at the center of all efforts, all endeavor, all public efforts.
Do you think there would be a replica of a Kofi Annan on a Ghanaian political landscape?
Well, the lesson of Kofi Annan is what? That out of very humble beginnings in Kumasi, Bonto, normal, regular Ghanaian family, he rose up to become Secretary General of the United Nations. This shows that there's tremendous potential in this country, and certainly, and I mean, let's face it, I mean, already Ghana has had several persons in all walks of life who have distinguished themselves. They ought, like Kofi Annan, to inspire our young people, our women, our youth, to realize that indeed we do have a country with a lot of talented people, and we should always work to harness and to allow them to blossom.
If you look at the dual politics in this country, for example, NDC, NPP, do you think that we will have the aura of Kofi Annan, you know, be imbibed in these politicians so that they will prosecute our politics with a different kind of tone and attitude? Do you see that happening?
Well, one always hopes that events like this will then allow us to focus on a legacy of a great personality, you know, a doyen of diplomacy, international politics, as you yourself has called him, will let us all step back a bit, reflect some more, and see what each of us can pick from their exemplary life. And that's what I would hope should happen, so that it's not all about mourning and grieving, which is all legitimate. But beyond that, you will see in the coming days leading up to the funeral, the international attention, the outpouring of sympathies and condolences, but also the visitors that Ghana is going to host, coming from all over Africa, all over the world. I can tell you that, and this is for the first time in the UN headquarters, at the Secretariat, individuals who just want on their own to come. And so there's a lot of pressure on the Staff Association to facilitate many staff who want to come. And so it's not only the high and mighty, but, you know, ordinary people, lower who worked with him and who truly admired him. So we as a people, and especially our political leaders, our diplomats, have a lot that they can learn from this extraordinary person that Kofi Annan was.
Let's backtrack a bit, Doc, to his legacy. You spoke about his legacy of peace and trying to prevent conflicts and all of that. Kofi Annan has been heavily criticized for the Rwandan conflict, the genocide in 1994 that claimed many lives. Our own General Nijo was there. Do you think that criticism holds water?
No, it doesn't, for the simple reason that the man
Welcome back. Let's have a conversation with Dr. Hannah Bissue, former Member of Parliament for the Tano South constituency. She has also been Deputy Agric Minister in charge of livestock, and now she aspires to be the NDC's women's organizer. Doc, good morning. Pleased to see you. Your kente looks great.
Thank you.
Wow. You designed it yourself?
Yeah, but I don't sew.
Aha, so you sketch it for people to sew?
Yes, my seamstress is a wonderful woman in a little kiosk by the roadside.
Right.
She does my clothes. I have one in Winneba as well. So I sit down, then I tell you what I want.
Okay.
I picture, then they sketch and they do it for me. Yeah.
How's the campaign going?
It's going very well by the grace of God. I have done 200 constituencies out of the 275 constituencies already. Yeah.
When did you start?
Where?
When did you start?
In August.
You started in August?
Yeah.
Wow.
Not like in the ending of August that I started.
And you've done 200 constituencies already?
Yeah, sometimes I go 2 straight days without sleeping.
Wow.
Because when you get into a terrain that is difficult and it's far, and once I get in there, I don't want to come out and go back in. And so I work throughout. And it's been good. I'm enjoying it. I'm loving it.
Does it affect your family life? 3 days without sleep?
No, it doesn't. I think that I've been a minister and I've been a member of parliament at the same time, and I manage my official work and my family life as well. And you know, politics, it has its season.
Right.
So when it gets to campaigning, your family understands that that's a period where you're going to be busy. And so I get out there and we move out.
200 constituencies, what do you tell them? I'm curious.
You know, I decided to bring something new on board.
Like what?
If I felt that if I want to be a woman organizer of the great party, NDC, there are 275 times 2 women organizers. That's the women organizers and their deputies.
Right.
In 275 constituencies.
Absolutely.
Living at various areas, being it city, being it town, being it village, of the various constituencies. And these are the women and the original women organizers that I seek to work with. I don't see how I'll call myself National Woman Organizer if I don't know the women nationally.
Right.
For me to know the women nationally, I have to get to them.
Personal with
Personal.
them. Okay.
And for the women that I've been to, one woman, I'll not mention her constituency because I don't want anybody to take it on. But that is the majority of them that I said so. But I single her out because she said from 92, she's been the constituency women's organizer. And this time she didn't even want to go, but nobody contested her because through thick and thin, she's always with her people.
Right.
She wept.
Why did she weep?
Because she said nobody has ever contested for that position and come to her house. And then she said, look at you and look at me. Who am I? Look at my room, look at my house. And I said, look, for me, you are special because you are the constituency women's organizer.
Are you doing that, visiting the nook and crannies because you want the position? Or that is how Hannah Bissue is?
No, that is how I am. If you go to my constituency where I was a member of parliament, even today after I lost, I still go to the villages. Every village I went to campaign, I went back there and worked. Was with them. Go to the. I can close my eyes and just draw my constituency, the forest, which area that you find 3 huts, which area that you find 5, where you find a village. I go. I did it consistently. Even before I became a member of parliament, I did. You see, I'm a Cuban trained. And Cuba were taught not to be office professionals. And so in Cuba, 70% was your academic work. So if you had 100%, and then because you are intelligent, you get 100%, you go and you sleep. You don't do the farm work that they train us to do. You don't do the cleaning. You don't do the sports. You don't do the other activities that add up to be the 30%. Then I get like 60 or 50. Then I do all those and I get 30. Add 50 to 30, you have 70. But I'll have 80.
So if you were really indeed close to the people, how come you lost the election? I'm curious.
Well, I think losing the election, for me...
And I'm asking that because, look, President Mills did a door-to-door campaign like you're doing. and he won the election, hands down.
No,
If you do that,
no, you see, the 2016 had its own issues. I think there were a lot of transfers. My constituency is also not NDC stronghold constituency. My constituency, it's an MPP constituency. If you check the 2012 election, you realize that I had almost the same votes as Nanado.
Right.
2012.
Right.
And then when you check 2016, you realize that myself and President Mahama had almost the same vote. So the NDCs are consistent and they are constant. What changes will be the NPPs. And on election day, unlike 2012, there were so many VIP buses in my constituency.
Doing what?
Bringing people.
From where?
Well, wherever they were coming from. I know that some came from Brekum because they've contacted me. I know that some came from Drobo because when we went for the Drobo Mahine's funeral, some guys approached me and I think they felt they were made to come there and vote and whatever they were promised, they didn't meet. And so those things happened. But all said and done, I'm happy that it did. You see, Reverend Estanyamiche has a song, and it goes like this. I don't know if you understand tree.
I do.
Okay. It said, no,
you should sing it. You should sing it so we can like
my voice.
No, we will like it like that.
No.
No, we will enjoy it.
Don't do that. I want to do justice to her.
One line. Your voice is okay. You can
I've
try.
Lost the voice.
No, a little, just a little. Sing one line.
Ansanwe yina betre ye nyankopon eyodi ye nkusie ansanwe yina betre se eni do so odi ukosie se ano do so odi ukosie a oyi ehinta sem kyerɛ
right
na wodi atenetene ansanwe yiwa ye dem I feel that from when I lost the election and people were crying, I mean, my house was like somebody had died.
How did you feel then?
I was stronger than any other thing. Somebody looked at me and said, wow, I said, I'm a leader. Leaders don't break down. Because the supporters are broken. I don't break down like that.
What's wrong with the current women's organizer, which is why you want to take her out? What's wrong?
No, I'm contesting her.
What is she doing wrong that you think
I don't think there's something wrong for political parties to go through their 4-year elections. And it's democracy, so if you think that you can deliver, you sell your message.
What are your chances in this election?
I think that my chances are very high by the grace of God. At least the women were telling me that without even coming to be a women's organizer, I've had one achievement for them. Then I was like, which one? They said, well, you are the first person in our political history who has walked to our homes, our villages, our farms, our markets, places. We those when it's during the day they are on the market. And you've come to talk to us. You see, I want to get to know them.
Right.
And they must know me.
So they appreciate that.
Exactly. So now, anybody who follows, whether you like it or not, you have to get there. Whether you'll be able to do that or not, that one...
That's their problem.
That's their problem. But I think that somehow are picking and choosing.
Do you believe in the politics of distributing goodies, giving monies to the electorate? Do you believe in that?
You see, I don't believe in that, and I don't believe that our women organizers... You see, when you talk to them, when I sit and I give them my vision, what I would do before the election, what I think we should do, what I'll bring on board to join what they have on board. Because these are wonderful women organizers. You see, get to know them one-on-one and you love it.
Not to give them money.
No. You see, I went there because, and I tell them, it's you should get there. I wish, and I don't move with a group. It's me.
It's just you. Former President Rawlings says, don't use my name. He was talking to some aspirants who were saying that he has endorsed them. I know you have a very solid relationship with the Rawlingses. Are they endorsing you? Are you using their name?
I never believe in endorsement of anybody. You know why?
No.
If even, let's take it, if it were the time of President Rawlings, when he was becoming a president, and I decided I wanted to be the women's organizer, to work, to mobilize the grassroots, mobilize the women, And ginger are women, if you want to put it that way, so that we could win the presidential and a lot of parliamentary seats. I wouldn't go for his endorsement.
Why?
Because it's not the endorsement that is going to work.
Okay.
It's me that I have to work. There's no better endorsement than getting the position and working for the candidate,
Absolutely.
working for the party. So I don't do that.
Okay.
I don't believe in it.
You don't believe in it?
I've
You
not,
don't do it?
No, I don't. I don't.
Dr. Anabisu,
I don't.
we're run out of time. Thank you very much. People say you are rude, and there were allegations about corruption, and that you live a lavish life. What do you say to that? Are you rude?
I think that if you say I'm principled, yes. If I'm firm, yes. I'm hardworking, yes. I have a very strong character, yes. I don't believe in people looking down on other people, yes. If you say that I don't believe people cheating people, from school I was like that. Ask my colleagues.
But are you rude?
I'm not rude.
Are you corrupt?
No, I'm here. If I'm corrupt, whatever thing you think that I have done, bring it out.
So who are those pushing those messages?
No, you will not get everybody to like you.
Okay.
You see, when you are firm, and I know that I've been getting some text messages of some people that they felt that I should have done something for the one who's in office.
Something like what?
No, signing
a certain
something.
favor.
No, yes,
Okay.
signing something which I thought it was not right.
Okay.
And per principle, there's nothing you do to me that will make me do that.
Okay.
And so those people, they naturally don't like me. And because I'll say to your face that, you know what? This is wrong, and I'm not going to do it.
Right.
And no matter how you push me, I'll not move away from that stance. I hate cheating. I don't like anybody cheating anybody because you think you are stronger than the person. That's why I said back in school, you see me taking up somebody's fight, not because I know the person, but because I feel that you are cheating the person.
Are you hot-tempered?
No, I'm not hot-tempered, but I'm straightforward.
You are straightforward.
I speak my mind. I tell you the truth. I say that when I finish telling you the truth, I don't look back.
Okay.
And so I'm not the type that I also want, I don't know how to say, but you see, I love human beings. That's exactly what I would say. And if you want to know me, you go to my constituency, you see the relationship. And now, even out of parliament, when I get to the constituency, I'm a queen. And so I'm happy for who I am.
Right.
I have a strong character. I'm principled. I'm firm. And I think that when women are firm and principled, either you are too no, you are rude or anything. Some men are said when the woman buys a gun, I understand that one, but we rub their backs before they can shoot.
I hear you. Dr. Anabisu, thank you very much. And I wish you all the best. When you win the election, we'll talk.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure by the grace of God, the women that I've visited, that I have paved that channel for women to respect our constituency women organizers by going to their homes to know the challenges that they go through as women organizers. I'm sure that the women, they bought into my vision. Thank you.
When the election is done, we will know what the results are. That's Dr. Anabisu. She wants to be women's organizer of the NDC, and that's how the cookie crumbles today. Today is day 2 of the 3-day national mourning for former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan. It's for dignitaries today to file past the body, or if you like, the casket draped in a national flag. We'll see you tomorrow.
The title of the next song is The Industry of the Ant. The ant eats, the elephant eats. But if you have the patience to dissect an ant, you'll find its liver. Thank you. Akomo, brekomo, akomo, brekomo, sasa breko na puna mope. Akomo, brekomo, sasa breko na puna mope. Akomo ba madiache, obrekwe, anayeno. Akoba madiache.